Yo, Yamamo, Aquaba Shronkoso, Eba POG Media semester Safe no aba, obe subscribe na walike Jumedino, Ediama Betman so Ashe Jumedino na afofro and so and sa akabi kindly click on the notification bell no so send a be the any news you have to platform no so one so one the air call and the air by Yanko Yensem Numa ye bo Eddie Era Mr. Domelevo, Aya Kachi, Mr. Domelevo. Na oye former like auditor general na udini jumas kron edema NPP and I say nanado abemo na chese udimu akotene peye na ya yenim say ensensem bisi ye ema nanado ni de efri honum de ema ode asem kura ye de eko Supreme Court wo ma asem no eko ye di dwana eba no. Glory be to God, say, or you vindicated, not to say, no, so to say, or vindicating no home, na feeling Kakawabia in no home. Nene, audience be about to jan F.I. Addo, Appointees home. Na Sunday de be a can, Bobutichi, Ufrin Swase, Ebekacho say, or denture, who are in Yada, general, a chin, na Papai, a desire expose, Eba Abontain or Chester hair. John Dramani Mahama, I was a prosecute a young Akuffo because Omedi Boning and a Ghana for and so the 2 million Asha won some say V said the OPBN ultimate a year to say what be very powerful. Nanuma be on more and yet a member in Chamunko. Nessa papa or what a NPP, MPs and ministers from the bro Medi Bonino or the same be to Jayanko in Konkoti.
A former Auditor General. Has joined us live on the show. Mr. Domelevo, good morning to you and welcome to Election Command Center here on TV3.
Good morning and thank you for the opportunity.
Let me start off first of all by asking you whether you feel vindicated by the outcome of the election results. You've been one of the major critics of this government.
Very much. I feel very, very, very vindicated because and I'm very happy that Ghanaians have held the government accountable in the true sense of the word. But if you can allow me, let me congratulate the President-elect, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, and the incoming Vice President, the NDC government, as well as Ghanaians, because I think this is fantastic.
Would you take up any position in John Mahama's government?
Let's cross the bridge when we get there. I don't know yet.
Right. So we have heard the Electoral Commissioner. She has declared the election results in favor of John Dramani Mahama. The transition teams have been constituted to begin the transition process. What are your expectations for the first 120 days of John Dramani Mahama?
Well, my expectation is that, and I think he should know, he and his team should know, that there is no honeymoon for them. They have to hit the ground running. Fortunately, he's not a novice. He's been there before. He knows what to do. So I think from day one, that is on the 7th, just after 7th of January, just after swearing in, he and his team should start work. What needs to be done must be done and done immediately, especially the looted funds that he promised us that is going to recover. I think he must take immediate action to ensure that these monies are not stuck away or thrown out of the country. You know, there's a lot of illicit financial flows these days. And I think that must be done and done quickly.
And are you ready to lead the task force then, if you're offered?
I will die for Ghana, my brother. There is nothing that I will not do for Ghana.
Why does it sound to me that you probably are just hoping to exact your pound of flesh?
Not at all. In fact, they can take all positions and put me aside. I'm not interested in exerting any pound of flesh. I have beef against nobody. What I'm interested in is how we can develop our country. I'm not pleading or applying for a job, my brother. So maybe that's the wrong impression.
With regards to accountability, on top of your mind, what issues do you think should be on the front burner?
First and foremost, the looting of public funds, the abuse of public funds is very important. We must ensure that money is generated for the country in terms of taxes, in terms of money borrowed, in terms of grant received from abroad. These monies are all used for the intended purposes. So all the fruitless and wasteful spending, I think, must be brought to book, especially issues like we are all aware, the cathedral, the amount spent on digging the hole, about 12 million spent on Polygu Dam, where we are told by the Auditor General there is no evidence of work done, the Accra Sky Train, and several others. I think those ones are low-hanging fruits. They must be quickly harvested. And then individuals who have actually abused their office and looting public funds, violating procurement rules or buying things that are not even needed, etc. I think all these must be checked.
I mean, listening to Kojo Chumbwafo, listening to yourself and some elements within the NDC, aren't you putting fear and trepidation in the officials of the NPP? Aren't you going to make it difficult for them to freely and openly help in this, transition process? You need them to be fully cooperative.
The point is that no single person should ever dream or think of occupying public office and not be held accountable. From the president down to the least in the government, they know that they are accountable for the resources entrusted into their care and the use of them. So I don't think we are putting any fear and panic in them. This is something that they know. Maybe we may be only reminding them.
I'm sure you're one of those who will be, throwing a caution out there to the NDC about this 2/3 majority they seem to have gotten in Parliament. That is almost an overwhelming, support in Parliament.
Exactly. And I've heard a lot of comments. People say the NDC can do anything at all. And I am like, you guys, you must be joking. 2028 is just by the corner. The very way that Ghanaians have said no to the NPP, they can still say no to NDC. So this is not a blank check to misbehave. No. I think we must reciprocate this good gesture from Ghanaians by rather putting in place good governance, accountability, and ensuring that public office is used to serve the interest of the public.
And Kojo Chumbwafo has just said right here this moment that he doesn't expect this NDC parliament with their overwhelming majority to be a rubber stamp of the executive.
So do I, because they do that at the peril of them losing 2028. If they become a rubber stamp, they've forgotten the terms that kicked NPP out. Those terms are there, and they can also equally be voted out. Ghanaians I don't think Ghanaians gave them this mandate to just go and be a rubber stamp. If any foolish, or forgive me for lack of better words, a useless policy comes and it is approved, things that do not serve the interest of the people, they use their majority to approve it. Fine, they can do that legally. But 2028 is there, waiting for us.
President Mahama has said that he...
My brother, if I may. My uncle, Mr. Domelevo, was kicked out of office by the president because he was fighting corruption.
The Supreme Court corrected that, didn't they?
My brother, I told you before, Aṛṛėsธ์by any other name is still Aṛṛėsธ์. He was removed from office because he was fighting corruption. Do you understand? That is what Ghanaians are saying they don't want to see anymore. A presidency covering corruption, using the courts, and using impunity by asking a man who is not due for retirement to go on leave until his retirement time comes. They went as far as going to change the locks in his office. Fortunately, he has lived to tell the tale. Not many people, not everybody lived to tell the tale. Your own colleague Ahmed Swale didn't live to tell the tale. So what he's saying and what I am saying, what Ghanaians are saying is that they want accountability. It is not revenge. It is not capriciousness. We are asking people to account tenure. When you are going into public office, and Mr. Domelevo is the doyen of all these things, he can tell you, the first thing you are asked is to declare your assets before you go. When you are leaving, they ask you to declare your assets. There's a reason. Because you cannot enter government with a pigsty, and then when you are leaving, you have 14 apartments. There's something wrong. So the laws of this country have been written by some very smart people, including Mr. Domelevo. And if the NPP government had been mindful and allowed Mr. Domelevo to work, maybe they would still have been in government.
Mr. Domelevo, let's stay in Parliament. And
they went to lock his door. They went to lock his door. How capricious can you be? He got to the office, he couldn't open his door.
Let's stay in Parliament and talk about the two-thirds majority that the NDC seems to have gotten. We're hearing a lot of people say that, listen, you've got enormous powers to do great things for this country, which includes the decoupling of the Attorney General's office from the Ministry of Justice, I think. Also, even in the appointment of certain people like the IGP and what have you, to even limit the powers of the president. Are these things workable? I know some of them would require a referendum, though, but are these workable?
Yes, actually, I think this majority that the people gave to NDC, or to the president, if I should put it that way, is to allow him to do good things for the country. In fact, it will be expected that he leaves a legacy that we can say that we have lived through 4 years of unprecedented good governance. And I am of the view that, and I think it will be the case, that His Excellency John Dramani Mahama is not going to say, because I have the majority in Parliament, we will pass through Parliament and get approved policies which are not good. Any changes or amendments to the constitutions and the laws of Ghana that will help us to ensure a better governance, I think I'm all for it. I am one of those who completely agree that the office of the Attorney General should be separated from that of Minister of Justice. In fact, there is no way that you can sit in cabinet, be part of a policy decision or any decision, and then when the decision is implemented with even advice from you, you come back and hold that your colleague member of parliament or cabinet accountable. So to combine the Minister of Justice and the Attorney General office, I think is a no-no. If there is any opportunity for us to change that, it must be done and be done well. I always support this with an instance that happened when I was in office. You remember the famous Osafo Mafu's case, that is the Crew and Associates disallowance and search.
Right.
That happened.
Right.
I was really expecting that the Attorney General will come to my aid to ensure that that money is recovered. It is only when I perused the document that I got to know that the one who witnessed the contract was the Attorney General. So I say, if he is the one or she is the one who actually witnessed this document, and we are saying that as a result of this, payment has been done for no work, payment has been made for no work done, how then will we get the Attorney General again coming forward to say that let's go and prosecute and recover this money? So separating those two offices, my expectation, this is what I think, is that we should separate those offices and then merge the office of the Attorney General with the OSP office. Because one of the things that I also advocate for is we know
Yo, Jumadiano Ofa Etosu Mienu ena yede ebro no na offer to so mienu no Domelevo to aso drop many bombshell na che say easy ono no enye se oye no out of hatred but ono no all kasa nyina no o che se hwe oman Ghana ena wo se ye de ye gisi wonum oman no edumre bi a wo se ye nyina ye kabom na ye nyina ye pushi eye oman no kwa animu na ye jai all this hula balloons are around ene empanimfo a omode ye de omode Ghana ye de edi agro na wa wone John Dramani Mahama se hwe se oba na so oba be di agro so the way a Ghana for esimache NPP kwan the same thing and a Ghana for betre NDC kwan na odense bebre etudwenko ni konkoti
not creating too many institutions and structures. These institutions and structures, they overburden the public funds. So if it is possible, we just get all these powers of the OSP absorbed by the Attorney General, who is separated from the Minister of Justice, Yoko, and etc., all put into to become one. If we don't do that, the cost of establishing head office, regional offices, district offices of the Attorney General office separate from the Ministry of Justice is a waste of public funds. So I think we must have to look at it. And I've always argued that even the anti-corruption agencies, there are too many. It is time, I think, President Mahama will set up a team to look at the mandate of all the anti-corruption agencies and see the overlaps and the gaps and reduce it to 1 or 2. We don't need 3, 4, 5 anti-corruption agencies. No. One should be able to have all the mandates and perform as it is. Remember, government institutions, including, of course, even private institutions, are run with departments. So if you have 1 or 2, there can be separate departments or units responsible for specific activities. We don't have to have them such that at the end of the day, they are fighting each other. There were several times that in the course of an audit, whenever Yoko feels that they have to go in for protection, they rush in and take their documents even before we go. So auditors will go and they say, our documents are with Yoko. To the extent that times I have to write to the Yoko board and say, look, I am exercising my constitutional mandate. You don't have a constitutional mandate, even though you have a legal mandate. It is not at the same level. It's not at the same level with the constitutional mandate. So release the documents. And it is usually a tug of war. So these anti-corruption agencies tend to fight each other, including the use of Yoko to come after me when they thought I was disturbing Honorable Asafumaf. So I think we should look at it again, realign this institution so to cut down government spending on institutions, and not only the anti-corruption agencies, of course. There are a lot of institutions which I think are redundant or overlap each other. We may have to reduce the size of government so that the freed public funds or money can be used to develop the country and used to better the lot of our citizens.
Just to give for emphasis, the same Yoko that went after Uncle Yao for doing the right thing, right, refused to go after Cecilia Dapa on recommendation of the OSP. So you see that there are people better placed to tell you what I'm telling you than me. But in a nutshell, I'm just asking the people of Ghana to figure this, right? Picture this. They went after Mr. Domelevo, right? For I don't even want to remind him of his pain. Yoko went after him for procurement. I don't even know. And then they refused to go after a minister in whose wardrobe $6 million had been found. They refused, even though the OSP had written to them to investigate that matter. So, as we say in SM7,
Mr. Domelevo, and I'll take a bite from you on this matter as well. A lot of these fine things you talk about, these modifications to our governance system, I hear a lot of the politicians talk about it in opposition, the issue of decoupling the AG's office from the Ministry of Justice. You hear a lot of MPs, a lot of politicians talk about it. Pakwesi Indum then, as running mate or as flag bearer of the CPP talked about it. Nana Addo Akufo, even as an attorney general in the time of Akuffo, had talked about, the possibility of decoupling the AG's office from that of the attorney general. Issues about limiting the overbearing powers of the president in making appointments. All these issues are talked about, but it appears when they get into office, it becomes business as usual. Now, how can we trust that John Mahama is going to make all these governance reforms that he talks about?
Is a question to me?
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. Let me say that it is true that if we look at history or we go back into governance in the country, you may not believe or trust anyone. And I remember in my personal or my own case, when I was appointed as Auditor General, and I said I was going to hold people accountable irrespective of levels and status, many didn't believe me. Actually, there are some friends of yours in the media who years down the line said, when you appeared in our studio and you said, if anybody spends wrongly, you come after him. We didn't believe you. We were going to go after the small ants and small boys and girls. But we thought there's no way you have the gut to go after the bigger ones. So that history many times make people think that, as they say in Twi, but it's not true. There are a few exceptions. And of course, as for the situation we find ourselves now, I don't think that status quo will hold anymore, because NDC does that and they risk being in government for only one term. And I believe that the same Ghanaians who gave them this overwhelming victory will hold them accountable. And I'm sure they are very much aware of this. So it should not be a business as usual. How I wish I was the president-elect and I have only one term to go. Because at the end of the day, I was not going to go and plead for anything. So I will make sure I hit everywhere that needs to be hit, or straighten all the rules that must be straightened.
But is it not shocking also? Is it not shocking also that, Mr. Chumbua, for that, this was one of the main things that Dr. Bawumia campaigned on. He told the people of Ghana that, listen, John Mahama has just 4 years. He will not come back and account to you. I will come back to you, in 2028 and plead for your vote. So vote for me.
Is he not the vice president?
Ghana still rejected him.
Is he not the vice president? Has he accounted for his 8 years of mismanaging the economy? Has he accounted for the 8 years of lies and deceit, the capriciousness with which they ran this country? Incidentally, the funny thing is that, you see, be careful what you wish for in life, because you may just get it. When they removed Mr. Domelevo, the person that they thought they had appointed is worse than him when it comes to letting people account. Have you seen some of his audit reports? Have you seen some of John Phrosėcuėd's audit reports? They are worse than what Mr. Domelevo would have written. Maybe he would have, if he'd be more lenient, because some of Mr. Phrosėcuėd's audits are just a bomb. Remember what he did, what he wrote about the Public Procurement Authority and what they were doing there? So let us be careful. What Mr. Domelevo is saying is that 4 years is not far away. The people of Ghana expect something from the NDC government. Thankfully, President Mahama has been there before. So he will deliver what he has promised. Because Ghanaians take note of everything you promise. That is what they are telling the NPP government today. You promised us accountability, you didn't do it. Remember, the president promised us that if you want to be a business person, don't come into his government, because in his government you cannot make money. What he was trying to tell us was that he was going to appoint 65 of his friends and family to run the government and run it down. The president's finance minister was his first cousin. His executive secretary was his first cousin. His, even, excuse me to say, women he had children with got appointments. Right? That is how nepotism begins. That is how a kakistocracy begins. And hey presto, that's exactly what we got. The president could never discipline Ken Ofori-Atta. Never. For the first time in our lives in this country, 47 MPs of a ruling government demanded a meeting with the president and said, sack your cousin now because you are ruining the government. You know what he did? He rather went after them individually to make sure that they lost primaries. Those who didn't lose primaries, he put independent candidates against them so that they could lose their seats. That is how the president responded to corruption. A deputy minister, Pius Hajide, his own boss, the minister, accused him of visa racketeering. The president came up and said, there is a police investigation. He sacked the minister, right? He sacked the minister. Said there's a police investigation. A day before he was supposed to go to the Volta region on a tour, he cleared Pius Hajide and said the report had exonerated him. As we speak today, where is that police report? Years on, Pius Hajide goes and says on the video that you've all seen, say muntu mami because media me win election now. Me family san she me dem me femu. Mama megune to kwai mo be ko America, mo be ko Australia. The same thing that Isaac Siama accused him of doing.
But they voted against him, didn't they? Exactly.
My point. So Ghanaians are not stupid. So when we come to power, we will find out what Pius Hajide did or didn't do. Because we want that police report, if it exists. Mr.
Yabada wase so wa hwe dwumadie no ebedu sese bre mesrɛ se on subscribe ya subscribe like dwumadie no share nema afoforo enso ensa inka be click on the notification bell so send be ya yede any news be abeto platform no so awonso wohunu de airco ene de airbo eje anya abedu ha ene yede nsam no ebesi ede am POG Media open one of the finest air channel I promote Ghanaian democracy and your politics higher now by day and I'll be Mr. Jebre, the shade you may do for my